Every night at exactly 3:03 a.m., the sound of tolling bells echoes through the valley. They ring out from a blackened cross and bell tower belonging to a church that burned to the ground over 40 years ago. In this village, the tolling is treated as a mathematical death sentence. Every single ring of the bell corresponds directly to a specific person who will die before the next sunrise. Locals call the phenomenon the calling. Those who follow the sound into the woods either disappear forever or return missing their eyes, their faces fixed in a permanent, empty smile. This was a distant superstition until the night before my grandfather's funeral. As he lay in his casket, the ruined church bells struck 13 times in a row. By the following morning, another neighbor's house stood empty, with no sign of where the occupant had gone or how they had been taken. The history of the village shows that the bells function as an inescapable trap. Ignoring the tolling doesn't offer protection. It only ensures the supernatural focus shifts until you become the primary target. 3 nights later, the pattern changed. The bells rang exactly 4 times, a sequence the village understands as a formal invitation for a living person to enter the ruined church. I found the physical summons outside my house. A set of bare, muddy, charred footprints led directly away from my door and into the woods. Sitting beside those prints was a small, rusted silver bell resting on the wood of my doorstep. It was still unnaturally warm to the touch. As I followed the tracks, the forest became a sensory vacuum. The wind stopped, the insects went silent, and even the sound of my own footsteps seemed to be swallowed by the trees. Stepping onto that muddy path marks the definitive transition from grief to submission. By following the prints, I had crossed the boundary into the entity's domain. Approaching the ruins, the church's charred exterior gives way to moving light and the sound of hundreds of overlapping voices whispering from behind the doors. Inside, the fire of 40 years ago seems to have never happened. The wooden benches are pristine, the floors are clean, and dozens of fresh candles burn with a steady, bright flame. The only sign of damage is found on the statues. Every carved face has been aggressively gouged out, leaving behind only featureless, scratched stone. The pews are filled with villagers who were buried years ago. My grandfather sits among them, his skin covered in burns and his eyes completely hollowed out. The dead lift their heads in a single, synchronized motion. Their smiles stretch wide in an eerie, unified expression that reveals they have become a single, captive hive mind. Heavy, rhythmic footsteps echo from the ceiling as a towering figure in dragging black robes descends from the tower darkness. The priest's face is a mass of continually melting skin. Where his mouth should be, a massive, fixed smile has been carved directly into his charred flesh. He speaks with the voices of dozens of people at once, his overlapping tones confirming that I have finally answered the call of the bells. Behind me, a line of living villagers enters the church in a silent sleepwalk. They move with their eyes closed, some bleeding from their ears as they walk toward the altar. One woman wearing a silver bell steps forward, and the priest presses a burned hand to her forehead. Instantly, her flesh begins turning to gray ash, her living form dissolving into the congregation. The church functions as a harvesting ground, actively hunting and corrupting the living who answer the invitation, until they are entirely consumed by the altar. The church walls begin to expand and contract as if the building is breathing. Agonizing human faces push outward from beneath the wood, trapped inside the very structure of the church. Every candle blows out at once. In the absolute darkness, the sound of wet movement and heavy claws begins scraping down from the ceiling toward the altar. This is the listener. It is a colossal mass of rusted church bells, fused with living human arms and whispering faces. In place of a head, it carries a giant cracked bell that swings with every move. The entity was drawn to the specific moment of my grandfather's funeral, when I whispered a desperate prayer into the dark, wishing I could hear his voice one last time. From inside the cracked bell, my grandfather's voice calls my name with perfect clarity. But beneath that voice, I can hear a hungry multitude of souls swaying and waiting in the darkness of the bell's mouth. Desperate prayers in times of grief act as beacons for these parasitic forces. I followed the bells to find a loved one, but I am now trapped by the inescapable